Friends, comrades, fellow freedom fighters, I live in the best country in the world. I was blessed to be born here. I embrace the values of Canada. I cherish the early pioneers who came to this land and helped build it, and who also embraced the same values and became proud and grateful Canadians. Sir John A. Macdonald said the following: "We are a great country and shall become one of the greatest in the universe if we preserve it. We shall sink into insignificance and adversity if we suffer it to be broken." Free speech is the lifeblood of democracy. But now, with the tactic of name-calling and lawfare and vilifying those who would tell truths, the politically correct, and often large Islamic organizations do not want spoken, we are faced with intimidation and strong-arm tactics, and worse. The ironic twist is that the West's own doctrines of religious tolerance and anti-racism are now being used to chill free speech, and so it is urgent that the West revamp our understanding of hate speech and racism. If we fail to do so, we will lose our right to free speech. For speaking out, we have become subject to libel lawsuits and the Canadian Human Rights Commission taking away our rights to free speech. Here are some examples. The conservative website Free Dominion has just been closed down. An American pastor from the Fortress of Faith organization was stopped at the BC border a week ago, and all DVDs were confiscated and labeled as hate speech. These professionally made DVDs examined the life and teachings of Muhammad, documented what Islam has done in Europe, and exposes the growing movement of a hybrid religion called Chrislam. At no time is anyone incited to perform acts of violence against Muslims. It cost Ezra Levant $100,000 and 900 days of his life because he dared to publish the cartoon of Muhammad. It cost Maclean's magazine far more for daring to publish a fact-filled piece by Mark Stein. And here's some more examples. Christy Blatchford, author and star reporter, an expert on the Caledonia crisis, was heckled and interrupted and eventually forced to get off the stage at the University of Waterloo. Warren Farrell, talking about men's rights, was blocked at the University of Toronto. Former First Nations leader Phil Fontaine was shouted down and halted from speaking at the University of Winnipeg because of his new job, Trans-Canada Pipelines. Ann Coulter, a conservative thinker, an author and broadcaster, and outspoken critic of Islam, was prevented from speaking at the University of Ottawa. Well-known free speech warriors Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer were vilified by Care Canada, and attempts were made to close down the venue, and Hilton hotels were threatened with a worldwide boycott. Earlier in May, when Geller was slated to speak at a synagogue in Toronto, it was cancelled after Inspector Little Ricky Virapan, the director of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau at the York Regional Police, a Muslim, as it happens, threatened Rabbi Kaplan with the loss of his police chaplaincy if he allowed it to go ahead. Care Canada harassed me and my British speaker Gavin Bobey and the Ottawa Public Library and threatened to close down my event. The National Council of Canadian Muslims has just issued a notice of libel to the Prime Minister for the remarks his office made in relation to their disapproval of the rabbi from the Geller-Spencer talk being included. The PM's office responded, and I quote, "We will not take seriously criticism from an organization with documented ties to a terrorist organization such as Hamas." The most consistent threat has been, speaking out about the Islamization of Canada. In September 2011, Prime Minister Harper himself said, "Islamism is the biggest threat to our country and our security." I lead Act for Canada, which is a grassroots organization comprised of patriotic citizens who love our country and our Canadian way of life. And I publicize threats to it. Above all else, we wish to protect freedom of speech. I am often accused of being anti-Muslim, and of course have been labeled a racist, a bigot, a hate preacher, and an Islamophobe. I am none of these things. I don't preach hate, I expose hate. I believe in protecting the values of this great country and striving to keep it safe. And I believe with all my heart that freedom of speech is a human right. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948, states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontier. In the 1700s, Voltaire said, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." In the 1800s, John Stuart Mill argued that without human freedom, there can be no progress in science, law, or politics, which, accounting to Mill, required free discussion of opinion. In the 1900s, Noam Chomsky stated that if you believe in freedom of speech, you believe in freedom of speech for views you don't like. Freedom of speech is understood to be fundamental in a democracy, and research indicates that freedom of speech and the process of accountability that follows it have a significant impact on the quality of governance of a country. When they can't refute us, the politically correct, along with Islamic organizations, resort to thuggish tactics to try to silence us. It is part of a larger effort to silence, demonize, and marginalize everyone who tells the truth about Islam and jihad. When they can't assassinate your ideas, they do the best to assassinate your character. I made the decision long ago that to be afraid would be to diminish my life. And I understood that fear makes the wolf bigger than it is. I leave you with this final thought. To be born free is an accident. To live free is a privilege. To die free is a responsibility. Thank you.